hope you've had a chance to listen to part one of this interview on Biz Bites. Stay tuned now for part two. Welcome to Biz Bites, brought to you by Com Together, helping businesses like yours build their brand through telling amazing stories to engage and grow audiences on multiple platforms. I wanted to talk to you as well about your role in all of this. So how did you find your way to Small Business Australia? Tell me a little bit about that story.
Well, the Langs arrived for the gold rush up in the Ballarat area in Victoria in the 1860s, came out from Prussia. And so I think we're like 6, maybe even 7 generations now of Langs around. And in the case of my father, he was one of 15 children, all of which had left school by the time they were 13 or 14. And all have ended up in small business, all have had businesses, have all ended up making a living out of having a business. And in the case of my father, unfortunately, he had a very dodgy accountant and discovered, because my father can't read or write, discovered that a lot of money was owed to the tax office, and that accountant ended up suiciding and taking a lot of businesses down. So I was fortunate. I was educated by the Christian Brothers, who kept me at school compared to some of the other teenagers from the south side of town where I grew up, and some of them were in jail, some of them are dead. But I stayed at school to year 12 and then was fortunate enough to get into university, where I studied accounting. And then fortunate to very naively, write some letters to big accounting firms, some of which said, come back when you're in second year, but one invited me in to have a cup of tea and then offered me a job to work for them that summer. So I was the first year student to have a summer job with them. That ended up being 5 or 6 years. I then moved into the law faculty. Then at uni with a couple of other mates, we started a business called Dr. Dog. So we sold hot dogs out the front of pubs and nightclubs in Melbourne. Had a fleet of vans. We called it, when I applied to go to Harvard Business School to do my MBA, I called it a mobile monopoly because we had a lot of pricing power. So we would get there half an hour before closing time and leave half an hour after closing time and do 3 to 4 venues a night. And it's quite amazing what you can charge for hot dogs. Very good hot dogs, by the way, but we had very much a variable pricing strategy, which I then learned at Harvard. That's what it was. But look, I've grown up around small business people my whole life. I've been fortunate to get, well formally educated and then to work internationally. And then back in the late 90s with a mate of mine from a firm called McKinsey & Company, we started an internet company here called Free Online. And we went from 0 to 400,000 customers in 18 months to be number 2 to what was called Big Pond. Then we're about to float that company here, and the NASDAQ index went from about 6,000 to 1,200. And everything was done. Several $100,000 had been spent on all the advisors. We're about to raise $50 million. And our underwriter, who wasn't really underwriting it, it was called lead managing, said, well, look, no, we don't guarantee we're going to get you the money. So we couldn't raise the money. So 12 months later, fortunately, we kept at it, and the underlying technology we had developed was pretty compelling, and we entered into a $120 million partnership with British Telecom and AT&T, and I moved to Silicon Valley. So we're over there for a couple of years. Ended up selling that business on to them and then moving back with the family back to Melbourne, and then thought, okay, well, I want to do something international, something that's sort of education and skill development. And then we started a business called Bill Lang International, and we've had clients in 50 different countries using processes and systems we developed for helping people manage people and helping small business people manage their small business. That culminated in a global book called Scores on the Board. Meanwhile, Small Business Australia had been an entity that from time to time, we had used for campaigns, like trying to get rid of BAS statements, for example, and why can't it be treated like company tax and just once a year we do a reconciliation rather than all that additional paperwork? Good for the accountants, but of no great benefit to the small business owner. And then we decided to really, particularly as the pandemic happened, we'd owned for a while a trademark called Buy Local. And we decided to get very, very active, that we would need big companies to help a lot of the small businesses during the pandemic. And it was terrific. We formed Team Small Business Australia. ScoMo had something called Team Australia for a while, but Team Small Business Australia is still in place. And so companies like Telstra, Aussie Post, NAB, PEXA all instantly got on board, started providing resources. We interacted with their customer-facing teams in terms of the conversations and help the small business owners that they would need to do through, particularly in Victoria, an incredibly uncertain time here for a couple of years around the number of lockdowns and other sorts of things that took place. And that's culminated more recently, and we've had our first ever national conference. So that happened a couple of weeks ago in Melbourne. More than 1,500 business owners have accessed all the resources we've put together, the recordings and things, and we'll probably look to do that now on a bit of an ongoing basis. But again, it's helping big business, truly support, understand, and collaborate with small businesses, and then increasingly helping small business owners, particularly male ones that are a bit older, to get together. I find, generally speaking, the female business owners that we deal with are much better at sharing with each other, helping each other. Whereas with this rate of digitization and the challenges that a lot of businesses that have been owned for a long time and led by male business owners are facing challenges and risks. Like the pandemic was awful, but it only takes a major cyber attack. It only takes a couple of other things, and out of nowhere, out of the blue, some of these businesses can be, destroyed. So that's an area of real focus for us now, is the older business owner, and helping them understand the risks and how to manage them and how to pick good partners and good vendors, rather than just having the IT guy. Or once upon a time with marketing and advertising, as a local business, just bought an ad in the yellow pages,
Yes.
Now there are hundreds of different things, and you got told to go and do blogging a few years ago, and then now it's social media, now it's AI. This stuff continues to come at them, and it's still fundamentals of business are the same, but different types of customers want to communicate in different ways. So that's very much our focus now. But small business runs in my DNA. It's for anyone who's got a small business that has reasonably predictable profits. It's a great way to achieve a range of other life goals you've got with coaching your kids at cricket and doing those sorts of things, and having a bit more flexibility with holiday times and all of that sort of stuff. And we worked with Aussie Post to create something called Local Business Heroes. It's in its third year now. And I coach directly the winners of Local Business Heroes, and some of the businesses that people have started all around the country, particularly in regional Australia, and a lot of them women, that these businesses that they've started and have developed are enabling them to meet their life goals. It's not purely about the finances. It's not necessarily about being super, super rich, although some of them have got some fantastic businesses they're building. But it's and as I said, look, well, I refuse to use the term mummypreneur. These women are entrepreneurs. They've identified a gap in the market. They've gone about doing something about it. They're balancing and juggling the other needs, and it's just fantastic. That's a small business owner. They're leaders of their families, leaders of their businesses, leaders in their community, and we need more people doing it. And those that are thinking about giving it away, we're a bit of help here and there, and you can keep going.
I love it, and I love what you guys do. I've got one final question, just to wrap things up as well. Well, actually two, if we can squeeze it in. But I just very quickly, because I know you ran the conference recently, and we've touched on it a little bit separately. Give me a bit of a summary of what you see as being the big issues facing small business in the coming year or two.
Look, I think there's a lot of time being spent and a lot of errors being made in trying to make different apps and systems and IT work together, because a lot of free ones out there, or low-cost ones, or you've got your IT guy normally, and this is what they've always provided. I think one of the big areas is coming up with something that's much more secure, that's integrated, so there's less of those mistakes. The data is more protected. There's such bigger obligations now on business owners and consequences. So I think getting your digital infrastructure really at business grade is what I would describe it as. And there are some great providers now, and we're about to put in place effectively a website and digital strategy review service where we'll have a look at it, we'll give you a report. We'll point you in the right direction, know what you can expect to pay, what to be looking for. So
yes,
that's a big gap that exists at the moment. Where can I go and get that and drop $1,000 and get that, rather than I get 5 requests a day from youngsters in India reckoning they can get me a number 1 on Google and all this sort of stuff. So that I think is a really big area. And then for a number of other business owners, it's like, well, look, given where you're at, given the change that's coming, are you going to change and stay, or get ready to go? And so many business owners have been very poor at succession planning, and we have a number we have to help. And one of the partners has got cancer, becomes a forced sale. and they haven't really been developed, in terms of being in a good position to not be dependent upon the owner. So the other part of all is digitization and getting the right robust systems in place. If you do it in the right way, leveraging artificial intelligence capability to do some things a bit more automatically and a bit faster and a bit better will be much easier. But the other thing is your business is going to be more attractive for someone to buy, to come and take from you, because it's going to be, you're not going to have to hang around, which, most sellers don't want to have to do. But again, the predictability of the profits, the economic sustainability of the business is much more visible. So look, I think, we talked a bit about AI on your recent gathering, and I think it is absolutely business changing. Will it run your whole business for you? No. If you don't get involved with it, the competitors of yours that do get involved with it are going to start eating more of your lunch.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I just wanted to wrap things up with one final quick question for you as well. And by the way, I hope we can come back for another episode and explore some of those things you've just touched on, because it's such a big area. But I really wanted to just ask you a question that I often ask my guests is, when people have been involved with Small Business Australia for a little period of time, what's the kind of aha that they have that you wish people now would know so they could come on board and get involved with you?
Look, I think many of us think, and as humans and as adults, that the best way you learn is by trying things and making a mistake, right? You think about a kid putting their hand near the open flame on the stove. And the thing about that is you put your hand sort of close to it, you sort of feel the heat, or you're in there very quickly and the brain responds and pulls you away. The thing about business is that is actually not the best way to learn, particularly if some of the decisions you're making and the things on having a go mean that if you do get it wrong or not quite right, it's going to sink you. Like, you don't get your intellectual property protected the right way. You don't set up the right corporate structure because you don't really want to pay a lawyer. You buy some cheap thing online, some website that's $50 a month, and then you can't do anything with it. And then you want to move to something and no, you can't have the information. So there's a lot of mistakes that get made along those lines, but the best way to learn is not from making your own mistakes, particularly if they end up having substantial consequences. The best way is to learn from other people's mistakes. And the reality is, everything to do with business is learnable. There are a lot of digital snake oil salesmen out there, so they're promising everything on the internet, and they've got their digital notions, lotions, and potions. Like, if you can't sort of talk with someone, interact with someone online, know it's a real person around what they're suggesting you have a look at and the concept that you need to learn. And so I think that is a key thing. And then the other thing I would say for the older business owners is, you always hear old dogs can't learn new tricks. We're set in our ways. I am the way I am, blah, blah, blah. The truth is that old dogs can learn new tricks, but only one trick at a time. And we have a service called the Profit Improvement Blueprint, which is really around getting down to where do we start? What's the first thing that we work on strengthening, potentially, say, the foundation of the business? And let's just have 3 or 4 months on that. I use the analogy of home improvement. We live in a house, we might be renting it, we might own it. It's pretty busy, we're flat chat, we're trying to keep it clean. If we've got kids, it's even more of a challenge. But we walk past a room or two and it's like, got to do something about that bloody dripping tap. Well, geez, that's annoying me, that fly-wire screen. So there's always a project there, and we walk past it and it noises. Most business owners are exactly the same. We're busy running the business, and hopefully it's more's coming in than what's going out, even after we pay tax and super and everything. But there's an area of that business that if the business improver could wave their magic wand that you could get improved, would make a significant difference. And it's finding and making, because I don't have any time. Well, you don't have any time because you're flat chat trying to chop through the forest with a blunt axe. You don't take a step back and sharpen that axe a little bit and then actually sort of go, you know what, I'll leave those trees there. I'll start with these ones over there. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to tire. The axe is going to get blunter. You're going to get more tired. You're going to do your back. So I think, investing in a community where you can work out, where am I at? What's the next thing? How do I think about finding someone to help me? And how do I assess value? So in other words, come and join businessadvantage.online, which is our $300 a year premium membership. But you can come and join for free, get a buy local listing, which will help you with SEO and AI, OpenAI and ChatGPT in particular. But you've got a particular need, come and have a look at what we've got and we'd love to help you.
Fantastic, Bill. Thank you so much. As always, we're going to include plenty of information in our show notes below. So we invite everyone to come onto the website and check those things out. Thank you for being an incredible guest, and I hope we can have you back sometime soon.
Anthony, thanks for the opportunity. And, again, for all the business owners out there, thank you for everything you're doing for your local communities, and keep going.
BizBytes is brought to you by Together for all your marketing needs so you can build your brand, engage audiences on multiple platforms. Go to comtogether.com.au, follow the links to book an appointment for a free consultation.